Our sole goal is to get Kelsey out in front of everyone. Like I said, she doesn't run off, and someone knows where she's at. Kelsey, we just want you home. Call us if you can, and we won't quit looking.
Kelsey Marie Berreth was born on September 15, 1989, and grew up in Washington State. She was never afraid to get her hands dirty and was described as a country girl at heart. By 2018, Kelsey, now 29, was living in Woodland Park, Colorado, and working as a flight instructor. She was also a devoted mother to her 1-year-old daughter, Kaylee, and was engaged to the child's father, Patrick Frazee. However, the two didn't live together. Patrick lived on his family's ranch in Florissant, Colorado, about 20 minutes from where Kelsey's condo was located. Unfortunately, their relationship had become increasingly volatile. One major issue was that Patrick wanted full custody of their daughter, but Kelsey, understandably, wouldn't agree to it. This is strange considering they were engaged, but it was later discovered that the relationship was so fractured that they had no plans on getting married. However, they kept it a secret and allowed family and friends to believe everything was fine. They kept this going until November 2018, when Kelsey mysteriously vanished, which led investigators to a whirlwind of secrets. On Thanksgiving Day, November 22, 2018, at approximately 12:27 p.m., Kelsey and Kaylee were captured on surveillance entering the Safeway grocery store in Woodland Park. They were there to buy ingredients to make a sweet potato casserole that she'd planned to make for Thanksgiving dinner. She also purchased a poinsettia plant. She was captured one more time on surveillance footage by a neighbor's security camera, entering her condo at 1:23 p.m., along with Patrick and Kaylee. One thing investigators noticed about the footage was that she was carrying the poinsettia plant she had just bought from Safeway. This proved to them that the two pieces of surveillance footage were, in fact, captured on the same day. After that sighting, Kelsey stopped responding to all calls and messages. Her mother, Cheryl Berreth, was immediately concerned because Kelsey always stayed in touch. On December 2, 2018, she reported her daughter missing. Investigators searched her condo and found her car in the parking lot and cinnamon rolls left out in the kitchen. Other than that, everything appeared normal on the surface. It wasn't until her family began staying at the apartment while they searched for her that some alarming red flags were noticed. Her brother, Clint, spotted a blood smear on the underside of the toilet rim and a small stain on the outer bowl. Cheryl noticed the outside of the refrigerator was unusually clean. There was also a missing bathroom rug. They notified investigators of their findings, and on December 6th, a second search of the house was done, this time with luminol, and the results were shocking. On the ceiling, walls, and vanity were a significant amount of blood that was previously invisible to the naked eye. They eventually ripped up the floorboards and found where blood had seeped through the cracks into the subflooring. It was also during this search that tooth fragments were discovered. This completely shifted the case from a missing person to a homicide investigation. During a phone call between investigators and Patrick on the day Kelsey was reported missing, he told them he hadn't spoke to her since November 25th. He also didn't sound too concerned and didn't ask any questions about her safety. He said the two had broken up on Thanksgiving Day and had agreed to share 50-50 custody of their daughter. 2 days later, investigators seized Patrick's cell phone in order to analyze his records. At the same time, Kelsey's phone was also being analyzed, and it showed that on November 25th, it pinged on a cell tower in Gooding, Idaho, more than 800 miles from her home. That was an interesting detail, but the importance of it was only realized after analyzing Patrick's phone. An FBI cell phone specialist discovered that he had been in frequent contact with a woman in the exact same area of Idaho. That woman was Crystal Lee Kinney, a 32-year-old registered nurse who worked at a hospital in Twin Falls, Idaho. On December 14th, detectives called Crystal, who was at a rodeo in Las Vegas, Nevada. They questioned her about Patrick and Kelsey, but Crystal denied knowing either. It was then pointed out that they had phone records proving otherwise. Now that she was caught in a lie, she began to tell a completely different story. She admitted to knowing Patrick, but claimed their relationship was purely platonic and professional, centered around their shared interest in ranching. She said she'd driven from Idaho to Colorado to discuss a horse or help him with ranch tasks. She claimed it was nothing more than that, and there was no sexual or romantic relationship. She also said she hadn't even seen Patrick in over a month. At that point, the interview was over. Investigators now needed to verify her statements, and over the next couple of days, they obtained a search warrant for her cell phone data, and the results were quite incriminating. Between November 24th and November 25th, the day Kelsey's phone pinged in Idaho, Patrick and Crystal's phones showed they were traveling from Colorado back to Idaho. Since their phones were consistently connecting to the same towers, it proved they were traveling together. By the afternoon of November 25th, the phones were detected in Jerome, Idaho, and then at 5:13 p.m. that same day, the last ping from Kelsey's phone was from a tower in Gooding, Idaho, about 20 minutes from where Patrick and Crystal's phones last pinged. With this new evidence in hand, FBI agents confronted Crystal on December 17th. At that point, she knew she had to come clean, and her only request was that she wanted to obtain an attorney first. The following day, she met with a lawyer, and upon seeing the FBI's digital evidence against her, which was extremely damning, he knew there was only one thing to do: negotiate a plea deal. It was the only way he felt Crystal would avoid a life sentence. To go from fearing life in prison to getting the sweetheart deal she did was almost criminal in and of itself. If she provided prosecutors with a full confession, she would only have to plead guilty to tampering with evidence. On December 20th, she traveled to Colorado and provided the FBI and CBI with a full confession. Crystal told investigators that Patrick had been manipulating her for months by telling her that Kelsey was abusing their daughter. So he convinced her that Kelsey needed to die. Before Thanksgiving, she said they had tried and failed on 3 different occasions. The first attempt, Patrick instructed Crystal to pose as a neighbor and bring Kelsey a Starbucks caramel macchiato that was laced with sedatives. Crystal said she drove over there, but when she got out, she was spooked by a barking dog and left. In a third attempt, Patrick gave her a baseball bat and told her, and I quote, "swing away." Once again, she couldn't go through with it. That's when Patrick decided to take matters into his own hands. On Thanksgiving Day, November 22nd, 2018, after Patrick went inside Kelsey's condo with her and their daughter, he asked Kelsey if she wanted to play the Guess the Scent game, where she would have to identify the scents of different candles. After agreeing, he blindfolded her, grabbed a baseball bat, and then beat her to death. Kelsey's final words were, and I quote, "Please stop." All this occurred while 1-year-old Kaylee was in the home. That night, Patrick called Crystal and told her he had a mess to clean up and asked her to help. She agreed and drove 13 hours from Idaho to Colorado with a bodysuit, gloves, and bleach. When she walked inside, she said there was blood everywhere, on the walls, ceiling, furniture, and even Kaylee's toys. She said she even found one of Kelsey's teeth on the floor. She then spent the next 4 hours cleaning the condo. She claimed she intentionally left the small blood spots behind in the hope that investigators would eventually find them. After she was done, she met Patrick at his ranch to dispose of the remains. Based on her confession, Patrick was arrested at his ranch just after 7 a.m. the following morning on December 21st, 2018, and charged with 2 counts of first-degree murder, 3 counts of solicitation to commit first-degree murder, 1 count of tampering with a deceased human body, and 2 counts of crime of violence. While in jail, it was discovered that he had attempted to solicit the murder of key witnesses, including Crystal, her friend Michelle Stein, Kelsey's mother Cheryl, and lead CBI agent Greg Slater by passing notes to a fellow inmate. He had provided descriptions of the witnesses, their locations, and even suggested that the inmate use prison gang connections to, and I quote, "cap 'em in the desert." While it didn't lead to further charges, it did strengthen the prosecution's case. Following a 10-day trial in November 2019, Patrick was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole for the murder conviction, plus an additional 150 years for the remaining charges. In January 2020, Crystal was sentenced to 3 years in prison, the maximum aggravated sentence for her tampering with evidence charge. However, in March 2021, she won an appeal and was resentenced to 18 months. Since she had already had enough time served, including credit for good behavior, she was released from the Denver Women's Correctional Facility on March 23, 2021.
And you feel happy and relieved that it happened, that he's dead.
Vincent Alexander Viafore, who went by Vinny, was born on August 22, 1968, in Bronxville, New York. When he was still a toddler, his family moved north to Dutchess County, New York, settling in Wappingers Falls. Vinny loved the area, especially the Hudson River. As a student at Roy C. Ketchum High School, he was on the wrestling team and graduated in 1986. He continued his education at Dutchess Community College and then spent more than 2 decades working for the New York State Office of General Services, eventually becoming a certified code enforcement official and senior project manager. Outside of work, Vinny was described as a very active and social individual. He loved to cook and was known for his smoked ribs. He spent a lot of his free time outdoors and enjoyed running along the walkway over the Hudson River. On the evening of April 19, 2015, Vinny went kayaking on the Hudson River with his fiancée, Angelika Graswald. While out drinking the night before, they got into an argument about when to leave the next day, but by morning, tensions appeared to have eased. Wanting to fit in one last outing before the weekend ended, they drove to Plum Point, a common launch site on the west side of the river. Their plan was to paddle to Bannerman Island, a restricted site unless you're part of an official tour. Angelika volunteered as a gardener on the island and knew the caretakers, so they felt it would be acceptable to stop there and set off at around 4:30 p.m. Vinny brought his phone, camera, and a dry bag, while Angelika wore a life jacket and brought her purse. They also had beer with them and reached the island roughly 30 minutes later. Once there, Angelika messaged one of the caretakers to let her know they had arrived. They then walked around the island, took photos, and drank together. Around 7 p.m., the caretaker messaged again, saying she and her husband could see them through a telescope. Angelika replied that they were preparing to leave and waved toward the house. Unfortunately, the conditions on the river worsened as the tide began to go out. The winds picked up and the water grew choppy. They had additional plans but decided it was too dangerous and began heading back toward Plum Point. At approximately 7:40 p.m., Angelika called 911 in a panic, telling them that Vinny's kayak had overturned and that she could no longer see him in the water.
I'm in the Hudson River. My fiancé fell in the water. Can you please call anybody?
Okay.
I can't get to him. It's very windy and the waves are coming in and I can't paddle to him. He's getting further and further away from me. He's gonna drown. Please call somebody.
You've got help on.
His legs are very strong. I can still see his head.
Okay.
Oh no, baby! I can't see him anymore.
You don't see her?
No.
Angelika was eventually rescued by another boater and treated for hypothermia, but Vinny was nowhere to be found. It would take over a month to locate Vinny. On May 23rd, his body was located near the United States Military Academy at West Point, approximately 1 mile from where his kayak was found near Plum Point, where their trip had started. Less than 2 weeks after Vinny drowned in the Hudson River, the case took a dramatic turn. On April 29, 2015, investigators met Angelika on Bannerman Island while she was placing flowers for Vinny. During a 45-minute unrecorded conversation, she allegedly admitted to knowing the drain plug in Vinny's kayak was out. She was then taken to the police barracks and interviewed for nearly 11 hours. During that time, investigators say she made some disturbing statements, including expressing that she had wanted Vinny to die and felt relief when he drowned.
I don't want to admit that I killed him.
Okay. I understand that.
Okay.
But you did. And you feel happy and relieved that it happened, that he's dead.
When you watched him in the war, with a part of you saying, my worries are going away now, and I'm free? And were you almost
Before?
euphoric that he was going to be gone? You felt that way?
Still do.
You said, by taking the plug out of the kayak and taking the paddle away from him. Does that sound correct?
Yeah, but I didn't intend to have it happen that way.
It's therapy for you, and you'll, like I said, you'll feel better. By the way he treated you taking that plug out was a reaction of the way he treated you, right?
Yes, sir.
You watched him drown. I know it's difficult. I know
No,
that
I didn't just watch him drown. I tried to do something about it.
When did you, in your mind, make the decision that he needs to die, and I'm going to take some steps to make sure that happens?
Be free.
And be free. And be out of this controlling, possessive relationship.
I wasn't thinking that at all.
What did you want that day?
That day, I wanted to be free.
And you wanted him to die.
If you put it that way.
Well, I'll put it that way. What's the answer? You know what the answer is. What's the answer, Angelika?
I wanted to.
And that would set you free.
I didn't want him like gone. I did not take it out on Sunday. The plug was already out.
The reality is, you took that plug out because you wanted to kill him. You wanted him to be dead. You wanted to be free.
I took it out before,
Yes.
a long time before.
Because you wanted him to die.
Yes. At some point, yes.
Angelika, what is the true answer to that question?
All right. You need a statement.
What is it?
I wanted him dead, and now he's gone. And I'm okay with it.
Meanwhile, investigators had learned that she stood to gain $250,000, which was later determined to be closer to $491,000. Once that money was brought up, she began talking about what she could possibly do with the money. At the end of the 11-hour interrogation, Angelika was arrested and charged with second-degree murder and second-degree manslaughter. After years of legal delays, Angelika entered a plea deal on July 24, 2017, pleading guilty to negligent homicide. She continued to maintain that she did not intend to kill Vinny, but acknowledged that she should not have gone out on the river under those conditions. She was sentenced to 1.5 to 4 years in prison and served approximately 2.5 years before being released. After her release, Vinny's family fought a legal battle over his life insurance benefits. In the end, a confidential settlement was reached, and Angelika was awarded a portion of the payout. While some believe the outcome had more to do with the dangerous conditions on the water, others believe Angelika planned out the murder and disguised it as misfortune. What do y'all think? Let me know in the comments below.